Welcome back! This week's prayer from Jared Patrick Boyd's Imaginative Prayer Book is going to be just a little bit different, but I hope you'll stick with me. We'll have lots of good time to let our imaginations go to work and to practice in our own minds and our own hearts some of what we've been talking about this week related to God choosing us to help share His love. So let's jump right in. Let's close our eyes, take a few deep breaths together. God, I pray that you would let our imaginations just release, that you would help us to see and to hear you clearly, that we would have open hearts, open minds, open hands to receive from you, from your Spirit. All right. In the Gospel of Luke, there's a story about a man with an important question for Jesus. He wanted to know what he had to do to have the kind of life that God wanted him to have. A life that is full of goodness and abundance and love. Imagine that you are listening in on that conversation. Imagine that you're standing right next to Jesus. How many people are around you? What can you see and smell as you stand there? You hear the man ask Jesus, "What must I do to have the best kind of life?" Jesus, seeing the man was religious, gave him a very straightforward answer. He said, "You know what kind of life God invites you into, don't you? Tell me, what's your understanding?" You hear the man give a pretty good answer. He says, "The good life comes to those who love God with all their heart and energy and also love their neighbors as well as they love themselves." That's a good answer, Jesus replies. But the man has another question. Who is my neighbor? Jesus answered him by telling a story. Imagine everyone sits down, Jesus too, as they listen to Jesus tell his story. Imagine that you are sitting right next to Jesus. Jesus begins the story and says, "There was once a man traveling from Jerusalem to Jericho. On the way, he was attacked by robbers. They took his clothes, beat him up, and went off, leaving him half dead. Luckily, a priest was on his way down the same road, but when he saw him, he angled across to the other side. Then a Levite, religious man, showed up, but he also avoided the injured man. Now a Samaritan was traveling the road and came to him. When he saw the man's condition, his heart went out to him. He gave him first aid, disinfecting and bandaging his wounds. Then he lifted him onto his donkey, led him to an inn, and made him comfortable. In the morning, he took 2 silver coins and gave them to the innkeeper, saying, 'Take good care of him. If it costs more, put it on my bill. I'll pay you on my way back.' What do you think?" Jesus continues. "Which of the 3 became a neighbor to the man attacked by robbers?" "The one who treated him kindly," the man responded. Then Jesus responds, "Go and do the same." You've been sitting right there next to Jesus this whole time. And as he finishes the story and finishes talking to the man, he reaches out his hand for yours and offers to go on a walk with you. Imagine he says your name and takes your hand. And then Jesus begins to ask you some questions. He begins to ask you about the story you just listened to. He says, who do you relate to in the story? Think for a moment about the people in the story that Jesus just told. There's the man who was robbed and beaten. There were two people who passed by him. And there was the man, the Samaritan, who stopped and helped the beaten man. Continue to imagine that you are with Jesus and you're having a conversation with him about the story. Who are the people in your life that sometimes need help? Who comes to mind? What are some ways that Jesus may be inviting you to be like the Samaritan in the story? Who are the people you have an opportunity to be kind to? Who do you have an opportunity to love? Is there anyone who comes to mind? Imagine now that as you walk with Jesus, you notice that someone is lying off to the side of the road who seems to be in need. It's a man who's been badly beaten and someone has tore his clothes. What do you want to do when you see the man? Imagine running over to the man with Jesus right by your side. Imagine helping the man up and offering him a drink of water. What does it feel like to have Jesus by your side as you help this man? Take a few moments of quiet and try to imagine what happens next as you and Jesus are helping the man. Ask Jesus right now to help you finish the task of love in this story. How would you finish the story? Let's take a few moments to let our imaginations play out what this story would look like. Pause this video. Let your imagination play like a movie in your head. You can press play again when you're ready. God's love invites and draws in. He wants everyone to belong in his family, and he invites us. He invites you to share that love with others, to make it happen. You are loved, my friends. Have a great week.